Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we give you three or four. I'm going to give you at least four stories. We're going to get you out here in about 20 minutes. Have you filled out our survey to let us know what you think about these stories? There's a link in the show notes for you. And we're going to get you on your way pretty soon. But first, Sergey, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Bob, I'm doing good. Good
So,
seeing you.
You are at the Hallandale Beach Library. Tell people what it's like out there and what you
That's
do.
that's right. So Hallandale, we are actually the most southern library location in Broward County. We're like a few blocks away from the county line.
Oh, I think it's like feet away from the. I
Yeah,
think.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I oversee a circulation section within the library. And for those of you that don't know, circulations deals with checking in, checking out material, registering the customers, providing sensational service to everyone, and any other duties as assigned. So assisting sometimes with programs and anything in between.
Did you know that's my old job?
That's right.
I
You told
used
me
to be the head of
one day,
circulation at the Hallandale
many,
Beach
many years ago,
Library
that you,
back in the
you did tell me.
90s, a million years ago, highlighting how long the library system, 50 years for the library system. I haven't been here all of those years. Just feels like it's great. It's a lot of fun. And we're going to see. But we've got some interesting stories. And you brought us this first story in a weird way. Because, Sergey, you deal with a lot of teaching technology. And we're going to hit that at the end of the show, too. And you found a story about some AI deepfake things. And this one came up in my searches. And I was like, huh. So in China, there's this very large rise of multiple companies creating AI avatars of people who are dead on purpose. They're not doing it to scam people yet.
Mhm.
But what did you think about this story here?
I mean, it's not something I would be interested in, having, but I guess for some people, it's their way of, coping and grieving. It has its uses, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's for everyone, but it's certainly an interesting way to use AI to kind of, talk to the dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was amazed at the Taiwan company that's doing avatars of your dead pet.
Yeah. I was surprised as to how affordable it is, like $200.
Yeah.
Like,
And I'm
wow.
like, so I can see it, but I don't have recordings of any of my pets. I mean, I may have some pictures that they could recreate something from, but I was like, and like you said, it's not something you would do. And I'm like, I think I might want to maybe experiment with a different person, but not with a dead relative.
Yeah.
And then this one of the companies who's trying to be responsible about this, and they have actual grief counselors as part of their staff, and they had the one person who was going for, what was it, 18 hours
18 hours.
straight.
Yeah. They were like, oh, that's concerning. Maybe we should cut it off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think that's like you said, it's kind of interesting. For text, it's free, but if you want to do voice, it's a cost. And we've talked about this on the show before. Don't worry if you're thinking, wait, Bob, this is a rerun. It's not. It's just this show, this in particular was interesting because both of us were looking at AI scams and some of the new generative model stuff that's happening. And then here's all these companies that are intentionally doing this on purpose for people, including this gentleman right here, who is one of the people who runs one of the companies in Shanghai, who is basically downloading his life for his future kids that he does not have to see and do things and interact with him when he's dead.
Yeah. Imagine the quality of that AI.
Yeah.
Once you have so much data about that individual, it's like you're actually talking to the person, which is, I know, it's kind of scary to me.
I'm kind of wonder about that from the scam point of view. It's like we hear about break-ins all the time. We've got another story about that coming up, and when they steal that data, now they can steal all the data about me and really freak somebody out or really take advantage of somebody,
Mm-hmm.
to say, hey, I just need you. I'm speaking to you from beyond the grave and I need you to open a bank account. I don't know. But then again, as we saw here in the story, there's people who are really falling for these sorts of things
That's right.
when they intentionally set it up and then they get so lost in it. So I can't imagine. Oh, it's a crazy thing.
Yep.
It is just crazy. How did you sleep last night, Sergey?
I did not sleep enough. So I
Yeah.
came to work a little bit sleepy, a little bit tired.
See, this is my wife always teases me about this because I am like adamant about wait, I've read too many of these articles on too many of these things. I know I'm supposed to get to sleep. Turn off the screens, turn off the things. I've talked about it before. I shut up all my screens go to black and white and such like that. And again, this is not a repeat story, folks. This is just another story that we've of a topic because there's a brand new study out. And of course, the link to that is in there. Yeah. Neurodynamics direct cerebrospinal fluid perfusion and brain clearance. How's that for a great catching headline? Basically what they have found, and you had the line. Tell me the line again. You get credit for this.
Oh, it's like emptying your recycling bin.
Yes. That's what your brain is doing. So when you sleep, we all know that, okay, you're refreshing and doing stuff. They've actually got some new studies and worked out exactly which chemicals are doing this in and what's happening. And more importantly, why it's working. Because when you sleep, your brain doesn't just shut down and get a rest. It actually does fire up faster in some cases, but it's generating these chemicals and the chemicals are getting flushed out of your system. And then you get a chance to empty that recycle bin at the same time, which is why napping doesn't work. Napping makes you feel refreshed because it helps get rid of those chemicals, but they just go to the recycle bin and they don't leave your system and get flushed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
interesting. Did not know that.
yeah, I was like, huh, this is a really interesting one for me because I'm kind of torn on the how much can we do for all those things. And again, in the show notes, full links to all the articles so you can go puzzle. I didn't even try. This is one of the ones I was like, no. I'm going to take the summary from someone else and understand it better. And speaking of summaries, the next two stories we have a summary from somebody else on another podcast that I will highly recommend to you, and then a great story about what happened. First one is hackers taking over the U.S. water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing to worry about, right?
So basically, what happened is a group of people, and this is why I'm going to give you the summary, and then I'm going to point out where I got this summary from, is a group of people who speak Russian went and posted on Telegram, a private messaging service, that said, and posted screenshots, we went into these water systems and here's how we affected them and here's what we did. And we know that it was true because we do know that one of the places mentioned in this article down here is 3 different times, one of them in North Texas, where they turned on the faucets effectively at the water facility to just make the water keep on flowing to waste water. And if you know anything about Texas, especially up in the plains of Texas, water's valuable there already. You don't need to be wasting any. And we're only getting into a much worse place in this world with our water problems. And it was fixed. It was found. It was fixed pretty quickly, by all accounts, within minutes. But basically, it was turning it off and turning it back on again, and then replace the server to stop everything from happening. But Yeah. I mean, what would you do to protect this?
I mean, it's concerning because these are just like small time crimes in comparison to what they possibly can do. I
Hmm.
mean, if they attack our power grid or other
Yeah.
important
Oh, exactly.
infrastructure, that's way more concerning. These are just like small time criminals, cyber criminals.
Yep.
But if you get someone capable of hacking into like electric grid, you could pretty much do way more damage than this. So to me, that's obviously concerning. I mean, can they have it not linked to any network and just operate it
Thank you. There we
without
go. Okay.
without
So,
having it to? Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So, and this is, I want to jump back to where my summary came from. For Daily Tech News Show is a show I've talked about on this here before. They do some really good stuff. And as you saw, Sergey, in this episode that they did, they talked about a lot of different topics, some really interesting ones. They were right on target, though, in my opinion, with this Russian hacker story,
Mhm.
because one of the reasons the place in Texas was hacked was because the federal government told the state of Texas, you have to have your utilities change the software they're using. There's new regulations. We are going
Mhm.
to start enforcing these. And the state of Texas said, no, we don't want the federal government to tell us what to do, and sued and won. And so they intentionally had the wrong computer software running to, so that they couldn't stop this. Because you should not be playing politics with security like this. I mean, there's
Right.
enough other stupid things that people play politics with. And then to go intentionally create a vector for other people to infect your system is because you don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Yeah. So there is, oh, yeah. And that other story that you noticed when you listened to the podcast about the T-Mobile hack thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a link to this episode of Daily Tech News Show in our show notes for our podcast. So it's a podcast inside of a podcast inside of a podcast. But you can go back and listen to their take from their show on that and see what you think. See if you think it's an accurate summary of that article and what Sergey and I have been doing as our article. But just wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about something fun. Something less controversial, or maybe more controversial, depending upon who you are. So, two stories about phones and screen time. Here's another podcast, the Make Me Smart podcast, which comes out of Marketplace. This is a story about tech. They do stories on technology and things like that. This particular one is they have a good long segment on teens and screen time. Did you get a chance to listen to that portion of it?
Yeah, I did.
So what did you think about their reasoning on that?
So I mean, it depends on how you look at it. So as you know, like we are in Florida, right? So one of
Mm-hmm.
the laws they recently passed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like they no longer allow kids under age of, was it 13, to have like social media accounts at all?
It hasn't gone into effect yet. It's going
Hasn't
to be going into
got
effect,
it.
and it is going through its court battles right now. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, so I mean, ultimately, kids, even with all these rules and regulations, kids are still going to be kids, and they'll try
Yeah.
to bypass and circumvent that. But it's like nowadays you're in this, society where not having your phone, it basically cripples you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you don't have any? Do you have any kids, Sergey?
No, I do
No.
not.
Okay. Yeah. Same here. I mean, I've got at one point I had 10 nieces and nephews living within a couple of miles of my house, so I always feel like I've had a bunch of kids around me,
Yeah.
and most of them are all getting grown up now. But But yeah, it's the question of who gets a phone, who doesn't get a phone, what time do they get their phones, when do they get
Yeah,
access to
all
certain
these
things.
rows, and yeah,
Yep,
it's hard because kids and technology, they get addicted to it so quickly.
exactly.
And
Right.
next thing you know, they're on their phone 20 hours a day.
And that is where our second article comes from. And the headline looks like it's a parody article, I know, of not me. I love staring at my iPhone. Um, and it's a comparison of the idea that just because it's something that is bad for you in large chunks or unregulated,
Mhm.
self-regulating, it's not bad when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
The comparison of what is it like to be a tween, early ages, teenager in high school, young adults in high school, college versus adults that have grown up and done all this. And what are the differences between what you should be doing, quote unquote, versus what you are doing in things? I am on my phone a lot.
Hmm.
I am researching. I'm reading things, and by that, when I tell people, "Oh no, I'm just reading," or "I'm listening to a podcast," I'm getting my information. I'm finding things, and it may not be that I am reading a book or a novel, although I do that too, but mostly on my Kindle. Um, but I am researching. I'm interacting with people. I am talking on message boards about tech stories or about whatever is happening in the world and stuff. That's very different than just mindlessly scrolling through TikTok and
Yeah.
watching video after
See,
video after video
you're
at the
scrolling with a
feed.
purpose.
Well, right, and that's kind of the thing is I try very hard to not scroll. I try very hard even if I'm on, like, Instagram and I'm interacting with different people. I've been doing a lot of photography stuff lately.
Mhm.
I will intentionally only go through X amount of accounts and go through their reels. I will not go through more than 5 accounts looking at their various reels before I stop and move to something else. Even if it's switch out of reels and go to posts inside of Instagram to see what else people are posting, because
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm breaking my concentration and waking up and
Uh,
looking, that same
exactly.
kind of a stand up, stretch, move around.
Yeah. But as you know, some people are just gonna be, scrolling, 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 scrolling,
Yep.
and they cannot stop. It's an addiction.
Well, and I think that that's part of the thing is, you know, did I don't know how much of a reader you are. I mean, it's one of those things where people, when I was a kid, I would always have my nose in a dead tree, and I still do with the Kindle. I mean, I go through mine like 17, 18 books so far this year, maybe more. I don't know. But it wasn't an addiction because people could see that you were reading, so they wanted you to do that. So I was spending way more hours with my nose buried in a book than I would ever do now on the
Well, yeah.
phone. People don't call that an addiction.
Well, yeah, it's different now because you have
Yeah.
all these short format videos,
Yep.
and they cater to your algorithm, and next
That.
thing you know, you're there like for five
Yep.
hours a day. Not
Yeah.
healthy.
That is a thing. That is a timer thing. That's what I really think. I always encourage people to put on a timer of how much time you're doing. Not that you have to shut it off, but to do something else. In my example, I use my phone. I have a thing that sets it to gray screen so that it's all grayscale. There's no fancy colors. I do have no notifications turned on, so they can't try and lure me back in. I try to be intentional that way. But there's very good reasons for teens to be on their phones a lot also because they're talking to people. When you and I were growing up, I mean, we were on the street corner talking to people. I was on the phone talking to people. I would get yelled at, "How come you're still on the phone?" "I've been talking with this girl for the last, oh, I guess 3 hours. Sorry."
Yeah, that's right.
And
Every generation has something else to
yep,
complain
yep, yep,
about.
yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a great meme. I wish I would have thought to include it in the show notes of a teacher complaining that these kids these days, we should stop them from using paper and pencil because they're going to forget how to use chalk. And they really need to learn that chalkboard well and get those skills. You can't replace those skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Technology moves on. And we just have to kind of like reassess and say, okay, they're doing it in a different way, but they're doing the same kind of things we did. So how do we make sure they're safe while they're doing it? And you have a way of doing that, because you are the one in charge down there at Hallandale Library of doing a very cool class. You guys do this every Thursday.
Every Thursday, so it's myself and assistant branch manager Hadi. We try to do it every week from 1 to 2 o'clock. It's this class program called Ask Us Anything, Computers and Technology. So we try to have a more personalized technology training tailored to each individual's needs, which is kind of different than having your traditional computer class in front of a projector and a classroom style environment. So we really try to assist people with as many different questions as they have.
It's only for locals. Sorry, folks. You got to show up at the Hallandale Beach Library to do this.
That's right.
But it's a great thing, and it's free at your library.
That's right.
You don't
Everything
have
at
to
the
pay
library
somebody.
is free.
We're not going to charge. Yeah, this is not Best Buy where they're going to charge you a fee. We are doing this for free for you. Bring in that brand new Kindle they just gave you, and we'll show you how to put the books on there.
That's right.
It's a great thing. Thank you so much for cruising through all these stories with me today, Sergy.
Right.
If there is a library or librarian you'd like to see featured on the show one week, reach out. CreationStation@broward.org. We'll see everybody next week.